dearest Father in heaven, we are so grateful this beautiful Tuesday evening to be meeting together to discuss and contemplate the business of the city. We are grateful that we've been able to recently celebrate the 250th anniversary of this great country for which we are blessed to be a part of. We are grateful for the many men and women who have served to protect our freedoms and liberties we enjoy each and every day. Father, please continue to bless our military and to keep them safe. Bless our first responders that keep us safe and protected close to home. And please bless each one of us as we continue to serve and love our neighbors, that we will be able to do so, guided by thy Spirit and by thy promptings to meet the needs of those we surround ourselves near, that we can act as thy helping angels here on earth to lighten everyone's load and live in harmony. Bless that we might be able to see each other's points of view and to work hard to understand one another and to serve one another. And we do say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. God bless Texas.
Outstanding. Thank you. Thank you, Councilwoman. Now we'll move into agenda item number 2. This is our public comment section. Mr. Alexander.
Mr. Mayor, we don't have anyone here signed up to speak this evening.
Very well. At this time, we're going to move into some recognition. So 3.A, presentation of the Department of Public Safety Citizen Life-Saving Award. Chief.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, and thank you for your time and consideration tonight as I present this award to 3 of our citizens. A little bit of context on this award. The Heath Department of Public Safety Citizens Life-Saving Award is presented to recognize citizens who demonstrate extraordinary courage, quick thinking, and selfless action that directly contributes to the preservation of human life. This award honors individuals who, without obligation or hesitation, take immediate action during an emergency and assist in preventing the loss of life. This is the second time the award has been issued to a citizen in the history of the department, and coincidentally, the other award was also given for a lake incident. And just so you know, I have the individuals involved and the victims, some of the victims here tonight for this. But let me get a bit of background on the incident. On April 28th, 2026, upon arriving home, Abby, Jade, and Grace Kirkland heard cries for help coming from the area of the lake. Recognizing that someone was in distress, Jade called out to confirm that assistance was needed. After confirming someone needed help, she immediately called 911 and ran towards the sound of the victim's voice through a nearby green space. Let me be clear, this was a considerable distance from her location. Jade, Abby, and Grace ultimately located a victim in the lake who was attempting to swim to shore. The subsequent investigation revealed that a boat had capsized with 3 people on board. 2 of the victims remained with the overturned boat and were unable to swim to shore. The 3rd victim had been struggling to swim against the current for approximately 2 hours and had repeatedly been pulled away from the shore before finally getting close enough to call for help. In total, the victims had been in the water for approximately 4 hours. This incident occurred near sunset and as weather conditions were expected to deteriorate, with forecasts calling for significant rainfall and baseball-sized hail. As many of you may recall, these events unfolded while a city council meeting was taking place in April. Fortunately, we did not have the baseball-sized hail. Upon arrival, the Dallas Police Department Marine Unit was able to remove the first victim from the water, who had been swimming towards the shore and calling for help. It was not until that victim was rescued that responders became aware of the other 2 victims who remained in the water a significant distance away. The rescue effort resulted in all 3 victims requiring emergency medical treatment for hypothermia. 2 of the victims suffered severe hypothermia and remained hospitalized for several days. The vigilance, quick thinking, and immediate actions of Jade, Abby, and Grace were instrumental in initiating a timely emergency response that led to the rescue of all 3 victims. Without their prompt recognition of the victims' cries for help and their immediate call to 911, the victims would have remained exposed to life-threatening conditions for a longer period, significantly reducing their chances of survival, especially at nighttime. In recognition of these actions, their direct contribution to the preservation of human life, the Heath Department of Public Safety is proud to present the Citizens Life Saving Award to Abby, Jade, and Grace Kirkland. I would also like to thank and recognize everyone involved in the rescue effort that day, including the Heath Department of Public Safety B Shift, Rockwell County Constable Steve Frazier, who's sitting here in the audience as well, the Dallas Police Department, and Rockwell County EMS. So at this time, I'd like to call up the Kirklands to receive your award. Thank y'all with our department coin as well. Thank y'all very much for your efforts. If we take a photo, Constable Frazier, if you'd like to come up as well for a photo, and if the victims are here, if y'all like to come up and take a photo as well, we would appreciate that. Where would you like to stand right here?
I want to get in the middle of this. Thank you.
Thank y'all very much.
Thank you, guys.
One thing I'd like to say, if we could talk Dallas PD, if they wanted to bring a boat down to this end of the lake, I bet we can find a place to put it and save a lot of time and effort. Hopefully this won't ever happen again, but you know it will.
Yes.
So I don't know how we go about that, and I don't know how many boats they have there. But if they've got two, I think we can find a place to put one down in this city, make all of us feel safer.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Well, thank you, Chief. Thank you, Constable Frazier, and thank you guys for being here, and we're very proud. And what a touching moment that I think will touch your life forever. Thank you. At this time, we will now move into agenda item number 4. This is our city manager comments and council comments. Mr. Alexander.
Mayor, I have no comments.
At this time, the chair will open the floor for any council member comments. If there are none at this time. Let me just say what an amazing event 4th of July was to celebrate 250 years for this great country, but also to always experience our little Mayberry. And I can tell you it is unbelievable the amount of work that the volunteers put in. And thank you, Suzanne. She likes to always hide in the back, even at the events. But Suzanne, that event wouldn't be what it is without you. So thank you, and thank you to your committee that works so hard and all those NCL volunteers. So very, very great job. My kids have been coming to that parade since they were in kindergarten. So pretty fun to have them in the parade with us and the council. Pretty exciting. Although my daughter's in cheer, so this was the first year. She was like, "I'm not riding with you, Dad." So very good. Thank you, guys. You make that event everything that it is. At this time, we'll now move into our agenda item number 5. This is our consent agenda. 5.A, action regarding the minutes of the June 23rd, 2026 regular meeting. 5.B, action regarding the purchase of a 2026 Ford F-550 truck chassis and crane upfitting package through the Buy-Board Cooperative Purchasing Program. 5.C, action regarding a resolution approving Next Bank as the city's custodial bank and authorizing representatives to administer the city's custodial and investment accounts with Next Bank. Great job, by the way, staff on some of that stuff and all the things that the finance board's been working on. 5.d, action authorizing the city manager to execute an interlocal agreement with Rockwall Independent School District for school resource officer services for the school calendar year 2026-2027. That is all the consent agenda items. I believe council's had time to review all of that. So at this time, the chair will open the floor to entertain a motion.
I have a motion, Mr. Mayor.
Very well.
I move that we accept the consent agenda.
Very well. We have a motion to approve by Councilman Omby. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Councilwoman Thurgood. Do we have any questions? If not, the motion moves. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? It passes unanimously. Thank you, council. At this time, we'll now move into public hearings. 6.a, conduct a public hearing and act on a resolution authorizing the submittal of a grant application to the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department under the local park grant program for Marcia's Happy Haven and Terry Lane Trail Project, and designating the city manager as the authorized representative for the grant. Ms. Gordon.
Yes, all right, Mayor and Council. This should be refreshing for you all to hear. A couple of months ago, we discussed this project and kind of reapproving a resolution to dedicate some land at Terry Park for this project under the circumstances that we are able to raise funding for the project. So as you'll recall, the site is proposed to be within Terry Park. There's an image on the screen. And Marcia's Happy Haven is really envisioned to be your all-accessible playground, having two areas for two different size and ages of children of all abilities to play. And so back in January, that resolution was made, kind of dedicating that land. In March, we received a private donation of $1.1 million to help get that project started. And now we are looking to apply for a grant with the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department to help allocate some funding for the remainder of the project. So Texas Parks and Wildlife offers a grant program for specific programs and for park and recreation facilities throughout Texas. We qualify for what's called a non-urban outdoor recreation grant, and that provides up to $750,000 worth of matching grant funds to be allocated to special projects. And staff thought that this would be the perfect opportunity to apply for some grant funding, because the park, as it's proposed, has a lot of great elements that can be utilized by our community as well as others in adjacent communities. And so we are seeking authorization to submit a grant application this evening. That does come with a public hearing to allow the public to understand the project, what it's about, and to give their comments on the project, and us applying or wishing to apply for grant funding. Project elements, as we discussed a few months ago, include some entry signage, benches and seat walls throughout the park, sidewalks to allow for easy access for those folks that might be in wheelchairs or need additional assistance. We've got two unique play areas, one for 5 to 12 and one for 2 to 4. Rubberized flooring as the base, and accessible play structures. There will also be each of the playgrounds will be fenced in, and that's for the safety of those enjoying that facility. There is going to be also existing trees maintained, existing parking maintained as well, some new electrical and septic systems and walkways, and then some additional improvements that we hadn't initially talked about, including the possibility of including a pollinator garden, a trail connection to Terry Lane, and waterfront seating areas. You will reference your packet does include applying this grant funding to the Terry Lane Trail. We do have a consultant on board, and he thought it would be better if we took that trail component out but left the trail connector in. And so that is, you have a revised resolution in your packet addressing that. There is some additional renderings of the park and the proposed play structures, and the entrance there would have another restroom, 2 restrooms to help families, and they're larger in size for those with special abilities. There's another viewpoint. So at this time, we do recommend opening the public hearing and approving the resolution authorizing the submittal of this grant and designating the city manager as the authorized representative. And I'd be happy to answer any questions for you.
Very well. Thank you, Ms. Gordon. At this time, the chair is opening the floor for any questions of staff.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Dodson?
Chelsea, do we have an idea of the overall project cost for this? That
So it's-
eluded us last time, and I don't see it this time either.
Yes, so initially back in 2019, it was just under $1.2 million. We have reengaged the original designer of the park as well as the grant consultant. They're coming back with figures between 1.7 and $2.2 million, just due to the inflation that's occurred since 2019.
So how do we, if it's, let's say it's on the upside of the 2.2, we're sitting at, 1.7, 1.8, how are we going to bridge the gap between that and the additional $450,000 required to do this if in fact it's on the higher end, which these things always are?
Right, so there's a couple of ways to do that. We could go back and look at the project itself, look at different components and see where we can kind of shrink down maybe to reduce costs. We can also look at what we've done before, private fundraising for this potential park, utilizing our PATH committee as well, looking to create a legacy project out of that. Or we could allocate funding during the budget process for this project.
Okay. Are there any other opportunities for any other grants, both state or federal, particularly given the all abilities component of this park?
Not that we're aware of at this point.
Right.
That's not to say there aren't. It just means we haven't identified any.
Sure.
The one we're going for is the Texas Parks Wildlife Grant for $750,000. But to your point, we may not get that, or it may be $2.2 million project, and we have a gap.
Right.
Which I think we'll have to look to other grants to the extent they exist, maybe some foundations for some donations from foundations, or private sector funding contributions coming in the door. I mean, it clearly is a purposeful project.
Absolutely.
And I think having the seed money of 1.1 million and the donations that were received back in 2019, bringing that to total contributed funds 1.2 million, take us a long way to getting this done, right?
Right.
We do have a gap, but hopefully we can succeed through the grant process with Texas Parks and Wildlife, and if not, we'll certainly be seeking donated funds or other grant programs that might exist.
Mr. Mayor, one last question, if I may.
Very well. Mm-hmm.
So with regards to the timing of getting this on the ground, what are we envisioning? Let's say we move forward with this. What does that unofficial Gantt look like with regards to putting this on the ground?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So as I mentioned, we have re-engaged the original designer, so they're getting us a proposal right now to finish out the actual design of the park and construction documents. And then from there, we would put it out to bid and go through that process. I don't have an exact timeline on when we could expect to break ground on that, but that's something I can certainly get you.
I like the term you used, unofficial Gantt.
Right.
So
right.
I think we're a year out from it being completed. Well, once we get the grant, I think we're a year out, and so we should know something after August.
After August, okay.
When is the grant awarded?
So we apply for in August 1.
I think it's January is when they do the awards.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Councilwoman?
So is the grant for this park, is it a one and done, or can we apply for a grant every year to add to the park?
You can apply to the grant program as much as you
Okay.
need. Yeah.
So,
and
Especially
yes.
and where is the next nearest All Abilities Park? Like, there's not very many of them.
That's a great question. I'd have to find that out.
I think it would be a
don't know.
selling feature,
Yeah,
right, for our grant to be
absolutely.
approved.
Yes.
Can you go back
Yellow Jack
to
and
the
Goliath.
features, the slide with the features on it? The list of things
Oh,
that it,
okay.
there you go, the
That's
elements.
the first one, yeah.
Okay, so I don't see a splash pad. And so it looks like phase one will not have one. But we have a lot of hot months with kids out of school, and splash pads are really nice. So I just want to, I mean, it's probably a second phase thing, but was it considered, I guess, would be my question?
So it was not considered in the original design of this project.
Okay. Yep. And so I guess whether it be with the Marcia's Happy Haven Park or our city park, I mean, that would be my vote, is that we get more water for the kiddos.
Okay. No.
Very good.
But
All right.
that's it.
Any other questions? All right, very well. If there are no further questions for staff, then at 6:50, we will now open up a public hearing. So if there are any residents that would like to speak for or against, please raise your hand. Come on, Miss Jenny. Come on up to the lectern. And thank you to you for all the hard work and many years that you've dedicated to doing this, or we wouldn't be even here talking about it.
So, my name is Jenny Seeley. I live at 4 Raymond Circle here in Heath, and I've lived here for well over 55 years at this point. This park, my friend Jenny, who's no longer with us, this park was dear to her heart. And I want you to understand that it's just half acre. Terry Park is 7 acres. So it's really a small piece of that park. And her vision was so important, I think, to the city. When you talk about the All Abilities Parks, a lot of the parks, including there's one across from Brahms, for instance, in Rockwall, if you had a wheelchair, there's no way you could get up the ramps that are there, for instance. This guy that we've engaged developed Marcia's Happy Haven in San Antonio. It's 27 acres of all abilities. And it's just, it touches your heart if you ever go there. So I'm really excited that you're re-engaging that same architect with that beautiful vision. He's familiar with the people that built our park. I mean, he's worked with them down in San Antonio. So I think it should go smoothly, and I feel like there'll be other people that would be willing to make donations if there's a shortfall. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Very good, thank you. And again, we just want to say thank you. You worked so hard over these years. Are there any other residents that would like to speak for or against? If there are not, then we will close our public hearing at 6:52. At this time, council, are there any further discussion items? If not, then the chair will open the floor to entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Mayor.
Very well.
I'm going to approve the resolution 260714A, authorizing the submittal of a grant application to the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department under the Local Park Grant Program and for Marcia's Happy Haven and Terry Lane Trail Project, and designating the city manager as an authorized representative for the grant.
Very well. We have a motion on the floor as stated. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Councilwoman Horn. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you, council. Agenda item number 7, items for individual consideration, 7.A, discussion and action authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with Kendig Keast Collaborative to provide professional planning and ordinance drafting consulting services to assist the city in rewriting its zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations. Ms. Gordon.
Yes, Mayor and Council. So another very exciting item for us bringing to you this evening. Before you have a proposal from Kendig Keast Collaborative to assist us with rewriting our zoning and subdivision ordinances. As you'll recall, back in June 2025, the city approved a new comprehensive plan. In that comprehensive plan, it laid out the vision of the community and several items that we were looking to see in new residential and commercial developments. And so with that, there were several recommendations also made in the comprehensive plan that directly correlated with amendments and changes to our development process as well as our zoning and subdivision ordinances. So in order to achieve that, we had funds allocated in the current year's budget to go through a zoning and subdivision rewrite process with a consultant. And so back in December timeframe, we started soliciting qualifications from qualified firms. We received 6 responses back. Of those 6 responses, we brought the top 3 firms in to speak with them and give them an interview. And then based on how they did in that interview, as well as reference calls and reference checks, we decided that Kindred Keys Collaborative was the best fit company to do the work in front of us right now. So it's a little small there, but as I had mentioned, there were several comprehensive plan recommendations listed out in the comp plan relating to the zoning ordinances and the subdivision regulations. So a few of those include plan development standards, uniqueness of developments. We were always talking about that and how unique, but what does that really mean and how do we enforce that? That would be something that the zoning ordinance would take into consideration and put firm ordinances on the ground to help ensure that we have quality developments. We're also looking at density requirements, rezoning considerations, prioritizing parks and open spaces, looking to encourage pedestrian and bicycle usage, and really looking at environmental impacts such as light, sound, noise, air pollution, things of that nature. So with that, we had a presentation from Kindred Keys that we had, and I wanted to share a couple of slides with you from their presentation and interview. So Kindred Keys has been in business for quite some time, working just specifically with communities, taking things from comprehensive plans and vision statements and bringing those to life and through ordinances. So they have a lot of experience with this. They have worked with several communities across the state of Texas, and they're really, again, focused on what is the community's policy, what is their vision, and then how do we operationalize that through our ordinances. So they will themselves be the lead on this project, but they also have Kimberly Horn coming on board to assist with the development of the subdivision regulations. We have worked with Kimberly Horn before and with their proposed team members from Kimberly Horn as well. So that was a great addition to their proposal as well. So their understanding of this project just highlights making sure that we are set from development pressure, making sure that we're safeguarded from the pressure of development that the Metroplex and the state is seeing in general, making sure that our ordinances are nature-based development ordinances, so again, that preservation of open and green space and connectivity, and then really utilizing the ordinance to modernize what we have on the shelf, what we're providing to our residents and development community. So really, again, what we're looking for from this project is requiring that high-end character of development, controlling density, protecting our natural resources, improving pedestrian connectivity, and again, making sure that we have a more rigorous and documented development review process in place. So you'll see in the proposal that was included in your document, it generally follows this phased approach. So they'll first start by really understanding our current regulations and our current issues. They'll do that by doing several stakeholder meetings with you all, with the Planning and Zoning Commission, with staff, really digging in deep to our current, what's giving us the hardest time right now, what's the challenge for us when it comes to making sure that we can implement the 2025 comprehensive plan. From there, they'll start establishing framework to present to us those new ordinances that reflect what we need at the end of the day. And then they will deliver the implementation of the project. So using very user-friendly graphics, charts, different online tools to really help make sure that we have something that is easy to understand and gets our priorities across to the development community. So in your packet, you have that proposed scope of work, and just as I had mentioned, there's going to be a kickoff and discovery. Then we're going to hit an interim ordinance adjustment, and that is going to be specifically key for our community because we are, we have developments coming in. We want to make sure that even though this process might take a year to fully get through, that we have something at month 3, month 4 that they can sit and be regulated by. So we want to make sure that we have that stopgap built into the schedule to make sure that that's taking place alongside the full override of the zoning regulations and subdivision ordinances. And then throughout the rest of the process, they'll be drafting codes and going through the adoption process. So working on those, meeting with staff, taking those amendments to P&Z and to City Council. So the total proposed project cost is $228,138. It does have an annual fee of $7,250, and that is for that regulatory tool, that easy-to-use and interactive feature that they host. So just a few examples of communities that they've worked on and kind of highlighting their work. They worked with Dickinson, Texas on a unified development code, which really sought to capitalize on the natural amenities, making sure that those were preserved in new developments. They've also worked with Borger, Texas on really just modernizing their overall zoning and subdivision ordinances, really protecting residential development and revising their overall development standards. They've also worked with Broken Bow, primarily on, again, preservation of open spaces, and, doing so through planned developments, which was something that was very important and prevalent through our comprehensive plan. And then they worked in Baytown on design strategy for their community. So this is specifically tying back to our overlay district and our commercial areas and what we want to see. We do have our guidebook for the downtown overlay district. And so making sure that we take that and put that into ordinances that are easy to understand so that we're getting, again, quality development. They also want to make sure that we know that they have a focus on the Texas Local Government Code. This is going to be incredibly important as we've seen the state come down with some pretty interesting zoning regulations and then, foreseeing what's coming in the next legislative session as well. So they will take those into consideration as well and make sure that our ordinances are in line with local law, local and state law. And then, again, final regulations, we talked about this a little bit, but really utilizing graphics and tables, plain English, so it's very user-friendly, easy to understand, and providing a digital platform for our zoning ordinance. That's the Encode Plus, is their digital kind of like dashboard that would host our zoning ordinance. So really, vision of success for them, making sure that, we have a plan that is very well thought of. Our ordinances are well crafted and they get implemented. Focused on character-based regulations, really knowing the identity of who we are through the comprehensive plan, making sure that we're in statutory alignment and, focusing on best practices as well as new and emerging issues when it comes to zoning and development. And again, making sure that it's easy to use. And so we are recommending that you authorize the city manager to work with the city attorney to execute an agreement with Kindred Keys to provide these services. And I would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Very well, thank you, Ms. Gordon. And just as a footnote, and I know council knows this, but for anybody watching, anybody here, as we looked at the comprehensive plan and continue to focus on how do we protect the future state of Heath, and you heard me reference it as our Mayberry, and trying to figure out where are all the holes, and we've seen a number of them through the last 2 years. We have SFE 3.0. That's a great example. But we didn't address our anti-monotony ordinance that was from 2005. So that needed to be addressed, and we were doing things on the fly. We looked at our comprehensive plan, and our comprehensive plan says, hey, we want to preserve open spaces, but we didn't have an open space ordinance codified, right? So again, we were working on the fly. And I can go through a series of different kind of gotcha moments as we went through the last 2 years. And this is really to say, hey, how do we go professionally, in deep dive fashion to look at our comprehensive plan and then look at all of the deltas, where are the variables, where are the concerns that need to be codified so we don't get into a straight zoning case and get lost. And if we're really pushing people to plan developments, where are gotcha moments there? And so that's why this has come to pass, and I know that we've talked about it a number of times here on the council. But very much appreciate you guys doing the due diligence and trying to find a professional organization that has the pedigree and ability to go in and help Heath re-look at this and really kind of make sure that we play cleanup and go years past and try to update our ordinances. So thank you for that. Are there any questions, council, at this time? The floor is open. Councilman Dodson?
Chelsea, how do we pay for this $250,000 assessment? Where does the money come from?
By check.
And then how is it then allocated between the first phase and then phase 2 and phase 3?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have funds allocated within the current fiscal year for this project, and we're well within that budgeted amount. So that's where the funding would come from.
Right.
And then we will draft a contract with Candid Kesey and the city attorney and go through those deliverables. It'll be referenced back kind of in regards to the proposed scope of work. And so we'll make sure that they're documenting, as we go along, checklist of what they're doing. And they did say this to me. They will set a schedule with us, make sure that we're on the same page as far as schedule, and they are sticking to it. And when speaking with their references, that is the exact case. They are very tight on schedule.
Right.
And so we'll tie that schedule back to their payment schedule as well.
So that was my second question with regards to references. Did you and Steve get a chance to speak to some of the city management?
Yes.
With regards to similar processes in their municipalities?
Yes, so I did those references as well. So I
Right.
spoke with, I didn't have it listed on here because they're still working with them currently, but Highland Park is going through a zoning ordinance rewrite.
Right.
And so I was able to speak with the development director there, but I also spoke with other city managers as well that they've worked with, and they had nothing but high regard for them, even stating that they've done other work with them besides the zoning and comprehensive ordinance rewrite.
Great, Chelsea, and that answers my third question, because I wasn't as familiar with the other references that you had brought up with
Yes.
regards to those cities. My question was, are any of those considered to be sort of premier communities, as we would consider Heath? And with Highland Park in the equation, that satisfies my question.
All right.
So, thank you.
You're welcome.
Very good. Councilwoman Thurgood?
I just need to recuse myself from this vote.
All right. Recusal noted.
Go
Councilwoman Horn?
Well, I want to say thank you so much. I think it is so important for our community to know how critically important it is to strengthen these zoning laws. Being faced with Senate Bill 840, even though it doesn't include our community, it is a foot in the door, as Councilman Dodson has so eloquently put. And this it's a cost to the city, but it is a vitally important one that we take care of this community now before we don't have the opportunity to. So thank you for all the effort that you've put in to finding an excellent firm to take care of this.
Very well. Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Mormon?
I would like to ask Ms. Gordon on the role of Kimley Horn when it says infrastructure-related standards. In my opinion, there's much need for construction standards to where the expectations that we have on what we use when developers or contractors build the infrastructure within our city. Can you define what that means, the infrastructure-related standards? Is that the construction standards at which we're going to require in our infrastructure?
Yes, so it's going to be looking at roadways, your sidewalks, your sanitary sewer. I know that was a big one that we recently discussed a couple months ago, and how we, what our requirement is for that. And so it is right now proposed as more of those design standards and what we're going to have as our process for those.
I love it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Very good. Councilman Elby?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that we've been working towards this goal for months. These are our laws, and we have to get ahead of them instead of fighting them on the back end. I think this is an extremely important piece right here today, so fully support it.
Agreed. Very good. If there are no further questions, the chair will open the floor to entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Mayor. Move to authorize the city manager to work with the city attorney to execute an agreement with Kendig Keast Collaborative, KC, and provide professional planning and ordinance drafting consulting services to assist the city in rewriting the zoning ordinances and subdivision regulations.
Very good. We have a motion on the floor as stated. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilwoman Horn. If there are no further discussion, the motion moves. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you, council. At this time, we'll move into 7.b. This is presentation and discussion on the proposed budget and plan of municipal services for fiscal year 2026, 2027. Mr. Ayers.
Mr. Mayor, if it's okay, I'm going to lead off on
Mr.
this one, if
Alexander.
that's okay.
Mr. Alexander,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Ayers, whoever's going to go.
Mr. Mayor, City Council members, I'm pleased to present to you the proposed budget and plan of municipal services for the FY 26-27 fiscal year. It's enjoyable to see items being presented to you that are exciting, like the last item we just had, the Marsh's Happy Haven project. And I think you'll find in this budget, there's a lot of exciting things to discuss as we go along through this process. And so tonight, in understanding that you have just received this proposed budget in a very short period of time, have had a chance to look at it. Tonight, we just want to hit the highlights of it for you. Kind of go through. I think there's a 20-page presentation that's been passed out for you to follow along with. But just hit the highlights of the budget, answer any questions that you might have, and then, of course, we have a meeting with the Finance Board next week to go through this proposed budget with them, and then we have a meeting with you all on the 28th of July to go back through it again, have a public hearing on this proposed budget. I think the next item on the agenda is for you to call that public hearing. But then you'll have some more opportunity to go through it and spend some time with it. We will also plan a meeting, I believe, in the first week of August. I don't think it's on your calendar yet, but hopefully it'll work out. And we'll have a meeting in the first week of August to take a deeper dive with you and give you an opportunity to spend some more meaningful time going through the budget with us in more detail and answering some of those detailed questions that you might have, and also discuss overall financial planning for the future of our community. And so that's something you don't have. The financial plan, the 10-year financial plan, is not something you have yet. You will have it before we get to that August meeting for you to be able to digest and then have a discussion about not just what's happening next year, but what we think the future is going to look like from a financial perspective, CIP, operations, and that sort of thing. So anyways, a couple things about the proposed budget I want to cover with you. There's still some information that we are to receive that will inform this proposed budget. We just received the certified tax rolls for Rockwall and for Kaufman County today and yesterday. We got Rockwall's yesterday and we got Kaufman County's today. So Jay and I will be going back through that and making some adjustments to the numbers that you have in this proposed budget. It's kind of the disadvantage of starting a little early is that, we're playing without all the information, preparing without all the information, so we have to make some guesstimates on our own calculations and what those numbers might look like. And so as we digest those certified rolls a little bit more carefully and analyze those, it will adjust the more particularly the tax rate that's been proposed, okay? And so that will change as we go forward. We also have some information we'll get from our benefits consultant tomorrow with regards to health and dental benefits to understand what that increase might look like. In this proposed budget, we've proposed a 10% adjustment for health and dental insurance benefits. Initial projections were about a 20% increase. I suspect if it's going to be a 20% increase from Cigna, who is our health and dental provider, we will go out for bid and see if we can get better pricing. But I'll know more about that information at our meeting tomorrow with our benefits consultant. We're also going to seek some additional information from the North Texas Municipal Water District that will help inform the cost of wastewater treatment as well as the cost of our water for next year. Okay, we have some estimated costs from them, but we want to make sure we have the most current information. So my point is, saying all that, is there are some things that are going to come along over the next few weeks that will change some of the numbers that are in this proposed budget as we tighten these numbers up and get to a budget that we will ask you to ultimately adopt. Okay. So as I presented at one of the last meetings, we put together a strategic plan, draft strategic plan for you to look at. We have worked to build this proposed budget based on the goals and objectives and the strategic initiatives that are in that strategic plan. I've just pointed out the high-level goals that are in that strategic plan. They're listed here. I won't read through them. I know you've read them. But I've tried to highlight through this presentation and did so in the budget book as well where we're hitting those goals at. Now, I didn't take a deep dive into that, but some of the new programs and some of the capital items are certainly hitting right on these goals, and I've tried to point that out through this presentation and in your book. So you should have two documents. You should have the presentation I'm going through now, and you should also have a proposed budget book. For our residents, this proposed budget book is on our website, so if they want to start looking at that and studying that for future meetings, it's available for their information. We've talked about the budget calendar. We're here on the 14th presenting the proposed budget to you. Again, we have our finance board meeting next week, and then we'll have our public hearing on the proposed budget on the 28th. And again, we will fit in a special workshop just with the city council to spend some more meaningful time going through the proposed budget before the date of adoption, which is August 11th. Just for everybody's benefit, I wanted to talk a little bit about the different rates that we talk about through this process as it relates to property tax rates. And I know you all have heard these terms before, but since we only deal with this on an annual basis, I thought it might be helpful just to quickly go over these and just kind of refresh everybody's memory as to what these are. And so as we talk about the no new revenue rate, that is the rate that will bring in the same amount of revenue that we received in the current fiscal year on the tax rolls that existed on the tax rolls in both this year and last year. Okay, so basically we used to call this the effective tax rate. It brings in the same amount of revenue that you had in the prior year. You also will get, in addition to that same revenue, you will get any kind of tax revenue off new values that came on the rolls, and that's part of that overall revenue stream that you get in. The voter approval rate is simply the no new revenue rate plus 3.5%. So as you think about the rate that would bring in the same amount of money this year, plus new value money, just whatever that is, times 1.035%, okay? Oops, excuse me. The de minimis rate, which is the rate that is currently proposed in this budget, is the rate that will generate $500,000 on the taxable assessed values. So you have the no new revenue rate, and then what the tax assessor and collector will do is calculate what the amount of tax rate you need to have to generate $500,000 on the current tax rolls, and they add that to the no new revenue rate. Okay, so you'll still end up picking up the $500,000 plus you'll end up picking up the taxes on the new values as well, and so it produces a higher amount of revenue. And this is only available to cities that have a population of less than 30,000 people. Okay, so it applies to us, and that's one of the reasons why we're so early in this budget process, because we have a very strict timeline to follow. As you may recall from last year, we have a very strict timeline to follow if the council decides to utilize the de minimis rate. Okay, and please stop me if you have any questions along the way. I love this slide. This slide speaks volumes to me when we put it together. You know, people look at our annual budget. They see $84 million annual budget for a town of 10,000 people. How can that be? Over half of that budget is going to capital. I mean, if that's not exciting to you, I don't know what would be. That's phenomenal to have that kind of money in our operating budget going toward improvements in infrastructure, capital needs within our community, things we can touch, see, and feel, right? And that's what we can get excited about. The other side of it is a significant number in and of itself. $38 million is going toward operations, a general fund, your utility fund, your solid waste fund, those things that we're very familiar with day to day and services that we receive from the city.
Hey, Steve?
Yes, sir.
How much of our budget goes towards DPS?
Well, that's a great question. Depends on how you kind of look at it. But if you just look at the general operating budget, it's around 50% is
Yeah.
going to go to DPS.
Okay.
It's a significant component.
But it's important for a town that values safety over almost anything else.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if you have your book, I'll draw your attention to page 49 of the proposed budget book. Mayor Pro Tem, to your point, we have a $12,432,000 operating budget. That doesn't count transfers of money between funds. That's just your
Right.
operating cost out the
Right.
door. And 6.9, almost 7 million of that is going to DPS. That's on
Right.
page 49 of this proposed budget document.
Right.
So to your point, a significant amount is going to DPS.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, you talk 45.9 million of an $84 million budget going to capital, and then another $7 million just going to DPS alone.
Right.
That's pretty substantial.
It's just really critical, I think, for us as a city to think about this as we go forward.
Right.
And have 2 stations that we're gonna be staffing.
That's right.
And everything else to make sure that we have the coverage that we need in order to preserve the quality of life that I think that we expect.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, you take that a little further. On the left side of the screen, you see 38.3 million in operations. Of that number, almost 7 million is DPS. But then you get chunks of this number that you can break down pretty easy. 4.5 million for water purchases,
Yeah.
right? $6 million for wastewater treatment. $1.5 million for solid waste. I mean, so there's some of those chunks we don't have a lot of control over. But my point is that $38 million whittles down pretty quick.
Right.
To not a very large number overall to run the rest of the city.
Yeah, you have a much smaller discretionary spend amount than you have spend that is allocated towards consistent programming.
You got it.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Thanks, Steve.
Yep. As far as kind of high level, what's happening with fund balances, what's happening with revenues, what's happening with expenditures, this gives you just a high level look. I know it's a lot of numbers, but I'd point your attention really to the ending fund balance column, the third to the last column. That's telling you how much money we would expect you would have left at the end of next fiscal year. And so that kind of gets to that maintaining financial strength and stability goal that we have in our strategic plan. So we're meeting on the first 2 rows, general fund and utility fund, we're meeting our ideal fund balances. In fact, we have a little bit of an excess in the general fund that we could apply toward other programming needs if council so desires. And we have a pretty healthy utility fund balance, which as you see the financial plan that we'll present to you later in this budget process, you'll see we're utilizing some of that fund balance to smooth out future rate increases. So we don't have these 24% increases in water rates or sewer rates. And we can use that excess money to help us kind of smooth out those rates in the future. One of the most important line items I'll point out here is that kind of back to that capital spend, the capital projects fund. I probably should say capital projects funds because there's a multitude of funds in that. But you can see that you have a beginning balance of 49 million, an ending fund balance of 11 million. That's quite a bit of spend on capital and infrastructure over the next year. Okay. We always like to point out that the city tax rate is not the lion's share of the property tax rate, right? I mean, it's a relatively small portion of the overall tax rate because the school district and the county makes up other components of that overall aggregate tax rate. So we're making up about 17% of the overall aggregate taxes that people will pay in our community. I'd also like to point out over time our tax rate has declined. Now we do anticipate a slight increase in the tax rate for this next fiscal year. Again, that's getting back to utilizing that de minimis rate. So we apply that de minimis rate, maximizing the amount of property tax revenues that we can get in the door to do the things that the city council is wanting to do. It's going to cause that tax rate to go up slightly. Okay. But overall, it's sitting at around 28 cents. We always like to point out how we stack up to other cities. I mean, this is an exciting chart here to take a look at. Heath is one of the lowest tax rates in the area compared to our other comparison cities. So it's sitting around 28 cents. Talking about the breakdown of the taxable assessed values, you can see that top bar on this chart, the green bar, in my estimation is the most important bar to kind of focus on at this point in time because it is the value related to your senior tax freeze. Senior tax freeze is a huge benefit for the senior residents in our community, but it is going to continue to grow at a pretty good clip every year. And I think it's important for us all to know, and I think council knows this very well, but that basically as that grows, it becomes a tax burden shift, right? So that number starts to stay constant. Well, everybody else has got to pick up the additional cost associated with running the city, right? Because the seniors don't grow, the seniors' tax value stays constant, or the tax ceiling stays constant, rather. And so as that continues to grow, it's going to continue to shift that tax burden to everybody else to pick up the cost of growing cost of government. Everybody here is familiar with the sales tax revenue that we get. We're anticipating overall about $4 million in sales tax revenue next year. That sales tax revenue is split evenly between the city and the Economic Development Corporation. And of course, the Economic Development Corporation is split into two organizations, the Municipal Benefit Corporation as well as our Economic Development Corporation. And they have, as you know, different statutory requirements on how they use that money. Wanted to get to the water rates and sewer rates real quick. You recall this time last year, we were talking about 24% increase in our water rates again this year, right? Council moved forward and did the 24% increase in water and sewer rates that were recommended last year. The plan was to come back and do another lift of 24%. Based on the work we've done internally, we feel like that we can hold that to about 6.5%. So the question is, how can that be? How can it be that we're going to keep it down to 6.5%? There's a couple things going on just at real high level. One, we are looking at using that fund balance to help smooth out those future rates. And so what will end up happening is you'll have more rates in the future, but they just won't be this high. Okay, and we'll share that with you as we get deeper in this process. We also are seeing our costs not increasing as much from the North Texas Municipal Water District. So we were expecting a much higher lift in this next fiscal year for wastewater treatment. That's not going up as much as we originally anticipated, at least with their current numbers that they're providing us, and that's keeping us from having to increase revenue stream as much. And so those are a couple things that are going on. Jay, I'm missing something. I feel like there's a third piece of this. That's okay, I'll circle back around if I remember. Anyway, so there are just some things going on with regards to our operating expenditures as well as our ability to use our fund balance to help smooth out rates, which is positive for us.
Steve, two questions. Number one, on the water piece. Oh, sorry, Mr. Mayor. Steve, with regards to the water rates, we're due in the third quarter of this year, as I understand it, to receive feedback on the grant that we've applied for that could help us defray some of the future costs for CapEx for our water plan, right? And this plan clearly doesn't reflect that, which is right, because you don't know what you're going to get or if you're going to get anything. If in fact we are able to achieve success in that grant, what would the impact be from a water rate perspective?
That's a great question. It really is going to depend on what we get from that grant.
Gotcha.
I mean, if it's a small amount, it won't have much of an impact. If
Right.
it's a large amount, then we'll be able to refund some of this debt. Well, any amount that we get, we may be able to refund some of that debt.
Right.
Council may decide to use money that's available, that's going to be covered by the grant money for other projects.
Right.
Or council might say, let's go ahead and use that 3-year refunding opportunity that we've got and go ahead and put that money back, and that would reduce our annual debt service.
Well, we've got another tranche of CO, right? So the grant would essentially offset, if in totality we were granted the full amount,
Right.
would
Yes.
offset that second tranche of CO.
Right.
And that's exactly right. And that was the third piece I wasn't thinking of earlier, is this for next year at least, and our financial plan at this point, we have not baked in another $20 million bond issue for the
Right.
water plan.
Right.
Now, it may come to pass that we don't get any grant funding, and we'll have to go kind of work that into when we're going to do that for wells 5 and 6.
Right.
And the ground storage tank. However, it could be, based on the bids we received on the elevated storage tank, that we'll get everything but the last 2 wells done with the proceeds that we currently have. And so I guess the point is it's just we'll have to wait and see how it plays out. But
I just think it's important for our citizens to know and to recognize that we are actively looking for ways to decrease the tax burden
Absolutely.
on them for this water project and all CapEx projects in general. right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the water rate piece.
Well, and hopefully, to your point, the state will do another tranche of money that we can go after in the following year.
Right.
If you recall, this current grant program we're going after was a one-time, $1 billion grant funding. Well, perhaps the state will come back and offer something like that again in the following year.
Right. Steve, my last question here on just this segment is, this last year, we inured the benefit of not spending about $900,000 in budget dollars 2 years ago for road repairs, effectively making this last year about $1.8 million, 1.6, $1.8 million, et cetera. I see on page 49 here, and I'm not trying to do an exhaustive review, this, I think, is something that's at the top of everyone's mind, since we have had a windfall of great road repair projects this last year. What does that number look like for this year?
So we have programmed in to the next year's budget $900,000 for street maintenance dollars.
Okay.
For instead of the 1.8, because that was a double up, we did 900,000 this next year.
Right.
But we'll also see, once we see the CIP 10-year plan.
Right.
You'll see all kinds of data points that we've got to really take into effect.
Yeah.
And in this budget too, there are two call-outs. You have Larry Drive and you have Key that are actually in CIP.
Yeah.
So when you see the 900,000, if you were to really put them all together, I mean, you're gonna pick up, I mean, those other two programs you're talking
It's
about.
$4 million total,
Yeah.
somewhere in there.
There you go.
Right.
Quick math.
Understood. Okay.
Yeah, and I know I keep saying you'll see, when we provide you the, I apologize, when we provide you the 10-year plan, you'll see we'll have that $900 million programmed every year.
Right.
That's the objective, right? The objective is to get to a place where every year we have a tranche of street maintenance dollars that's going to maintain streets. And so that's the objective.
And just so you know, we are very appreciative of we will see it, because, years past, we were definitely not here having a conversation about the budget in the middle of July. So, we do appreciate the fact that we are gonna see it, because I know our first year, we were asking for data points like that, and we were untangling years of not having a 10-year CIP plan. So we do thank you for what we're looking at today, and we are very excited to see your 10-year plan.
It's my way of keeping you excited about what's coming next.
That's right. That's right. Keep us guessing. Keep us guessing. All right.
Hey, Steve, quick question on the previous slide. Are we expecting an increase or decrease in sales tax?
So we do have a fairly conservative increase based on trend on sales tax.
I've just seen other cities getting a little bit of a pinch, or a lot of a pinch.
Yeah, you can. I'm not worried. If sales tax were to come out even, I'm not worried that puts us in a pinch.
Okay,
I mean, we'll manage through it.
Perfect. Thank you.
I think I covered everything on here. So operationally in the budget, a couple of new programs that we have built into this is 3 new public safety officers. This again is part of that staffing plan that we have spoken to council about, to get staffing up to where it needs to be to manage 2 facilities and at some point reach where we think we ought to be with regards to number of officers on patrol at any given time. Okay. Total cost of the 3 public safety officers, $504,000. We have a Parks Recreation Coordinator to help plan special events, work with Suzanne on different parks programming. Total cost of right at $101,000. And these 2 items fit neatly into the 2 goals that we have regarding ensuring public excellence, with a focus on being the safest city in Texas and strengthening quality of life and recreation.
I think on the public safety piece, if you can go back, Steve, I think that's the minimum number required, right, to staff both of those operations. It's just important that I think we recognize that.
Yeah, Chief's back there twitching.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Yes, you're right. It is the minimum staffing level.
But I think it's a great point that you bring that up, right? Because as we do talk about surplus and we do talk about proper planning,
Right.
There's strategic things that when we lay this 10-year plan out, we're going to see where we're utilizing our general fund.
Right.
And so we've got to plan very strategically, because you've got lift, but it may be a 4-year downturn if you're continuing to staff up your DPS.
Right.
Yeah, and I think ultimately, what you're gonna see is exactly what the mayor just said, is that we will, because we'll be adding costs faster than revenue's growing, we are gonna dip down, and we'll have to discuss with council from a policy perspective, how you feel about that. I mean, we'll still be within we'll still be able to meet a fund balance requirement, but it may not be the 35% that we're currently programming into our overall financial plan. But it'll come back, as time, once we've got the staffing in place and our budget's acclimated to it, and we continue to add revenue, it'll come back to where it needs to be.
And by ordinance, it's 25%, but by
Right.
internal practice has been 35%.
You're right. That's right. As far as compensation adjustments programmed in the proposed budget, we have up to a 4% merit adjustment for our civilian personnel, and we have the 5% adjustment, step adjustment that's in the current step plan for our Department of Public Safety officers. Again, I mentioned the health insurance benefits. We'll know more on this tomorrow and be able to kind of figure out how we want to proceed with that. Currently has 10% factored into the budget. As far as our cost of water, we do anticipate about an 8% increase in the volumetric rate that Rockwall gets charged. And you may recall, we used to have a 10% adder that Rockwall would charge, but now it's 15 cents based on the new water agreement that we have. So we are seeing about $420,000 anticipated increase in our water, cost of water that we buy to resell. And so that's part of what's driving that 6.5% adjustment that we've got in the rates factored in for next year. We talked a little bit about the cost for the wastewater treatment not being as high as we originally anticipated. Part of this is related to the flows. I know these slides that we have that the North Texas Municipal Water District provides you shows you a volumetric rate that's charged. That's really not how we're billed on it. We're billed based on the flow of wastewater through the system. And one of the things that's driving our costs down right now is that our proportionate share of flow through the wastewater system is not as high as it was in prior years. And so that helps moderate our costs a bit, brings those down a little bit. And so we're not having to pick up as much cost as we anticipated. And it looks like, based on projections that the district has given us, that some of the big lift in the Buffalo Creek Interceptor that we expected next year is not happening until 2028. Okay.
So you're saying on this program, we're growing less fast?
That's right. Well, that's right. Yeah. So yeah, our proportionate share is not as high as what other folks are growing faster.
We're not growing that fast comparatively.
You're right.
Thank you.
As far as the capital improvement plan for this next fiscal year, kind of getting back to some of the discussion about the street maintenance. So we mentioned the $900,000. We have factored in the Terry Lane sidewalk at $1.3 million going out to Terry Park. Key drive improvements. This particular project, and we'll get more detail when later down the road in this process, but that splits out into two different components. One component is handling the bridge at Key Drive. These are improvements that TxDOT is requesting that we have made. And then the other piece is related to a mill and overlay of the street to improve that roadway. We also have some design funding set aside for trail improvements throughout the community. And the Veterans Memorial Design is both the trail improvement projects and the Veterans Memorial Design came from a CIP that prior council approved a couple of years ago. I've kept them in the CIP. We'll get into more discussion about those and whether these are priorities for this city council or not, and if you want to continue to keep them in place. The Veterans Memorial Design, as it's programmed into this proposed budget, is anticipating contributions to come in and help pay for that. We have some funding built in for miscellaneous waterline improvements to the extent that they become identified and necessary, and then continuation of our 5-year program on the fire flow improvements. One of the things we want to talk to council about as we go through this process, are you wanting us to bring forward all of those improvements to the extent that it's constructible from a feasibility standpoint all at one time and get the rest of that program done next year? Or do you want to continue doing a phase next year, a year after that, and just keep within the 5-year plan? And so as you look at this only includes the next year's capital funding for the fire flow program of a 5-year program. It could be, and I think we have the resources available to bring those projects forward and get those done sooner if council would end up desiring to do so. So we can have that discussion as we go along. And of course, our public safety facilities are currently under construction now. We're really excited to see those coming online. fitting directly into the goals of our community. And then continuation of the water plan infrastructure, which would include your 3 water wells in the ground storage tank. Last on the list, I'm going to propose a change on this one, included in the proposed budget, that we would fund design of this facility after DPS leaves. We'll have to figure out what we want to do with City Hall. I had programmed in this proposed budget to fund the design and then also Larry Drive rehabilitation through a certificate of obligation that we could issue next year. As I've thought about it over the last couple of days, I think what I would propose at this point is go ahead and utilize existing fund balances within our general capital improvement program to fund Larry Drive and the design of any kind of City Hall renovation, should the council decide to go down that path, and then come back in 28 and borrow money to do any kind of project that council decides to do on City Hall. It's a little bit of a change up there, sort of create that confusion, but I think that'll work better for us from a debt management standpoint, as well as utilizing funds within the general fund CIP that have come from sources that better align with a road project.
Steve, the only thing to keep in mind there is that with the discussion in Austin with regards to COs,
Yes.
it is not a question of is there going to be change, but how bad is it going to be, not only in terms of property tax and reduction, but also the amount that cities can increase the effective tax rate, as well as COs going out for full public vote.
That's a fair point.
So it's just, I mean, as you start moving these things around and waiting until 28, kind of like with the fire flow, from my perspective, we pull as much forward and do as much as we can because the world's going to absolutely shift under our feet.
Those are very fair points. We do have some equipment factored into the budget for taser replacements and body cams for Department of Public Safety, vehicles for Department of Public Safety as well as our public safety departments, additional warning sirens. We've talked about the Marsh's Happy Haven project. Right now we're programming 1.7 million in there. It could be more than that as we get these estimates more refined. We'll have to wait and see. The citywide park improvements and the path funding, those are placeholders. And so we don't have projects identified for those yet, but we wanted to appropriate money for placeholders in those particular funds. These aren't coming out of the general fund. These are coming out of our CIP money as we identify projects that we might want to see happen in the course of the next fiscal year. And then the stormwater improvement projects predominantly address Ridgemont Culvert. That looks like it's going to need to be replaced. And that's all I've got.
Nice culvert you got there.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet, huh? 1.3 million, 1.4 million. We will try to keep that under that, of course. And that's what I've got for you this evening. I know that's real fast, real high level, a lot to take in at once, but
Great overview.
perfect.
Very good.
Certainly, if you have questions as we go along through this process, you don't have to wait to a meeting to have this, have discussions with staff. We're here to help you through this process, answer questions as you have them, when you have them. And so we make ourselves available for that, and same goes for citizens too. If anybody has questions about what we're programming here in the budget, we're happy to have that discussion.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Alexander. Are there any questions from council? At this time, the floor is open. If there are none, very well. We will move into agenda item 7.c, discussion and action on calling for a public hearing on the proposed budget and plan of municipal services for fiscal year 2026-2027.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council members. Jay will correct me if I get this wrong, but the plan is to have a public hearing on the proposed budget on July 28th here at City Hall at 6:30 p.m. And so we're asking for you to call that public hearing.
Very well. If there are no questions on that item, the chair will open the floor to entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Mayor.
Very well.
I'll move to approve and order calling a public hearing on the proposed budget and plan of municipal services for fiscal year 2026-27 and establish Tuesday, July 28, 2026 6:30 PM at City Hall, 200 Lawrence Drive, Heath, Texas, as the date, time, and place for the public hearing.
Very well. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second by Councilwoman Thurgood. If there are no further discussion items on that, the motion moves. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you, council. At this time, we will move into agenda item number 8. This is our executive session in accordance with the Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, Subchapter D. The City Council will recess in executive session. This is a closed meeting to discuss the following. 8.A, consultation with the attorney, 551.071, on a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the governmental body under the Texas disciplinary rules of professional conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with this chapter regarding briefing regarding citizen complaint. We're now in executive session at 7:45. There is nothing to further discuss, so we will now move into our agenda item number 2 and adjourn this meeting at 8:10. Thank you, council.
Good job, Mayor.
Thanks, Steve. Good budget review. Nice job.